acceptable.
Oh, okay, okay,
I'm cleaning up water right now, sorry.
okay.
So
I gotta,
So-
I gotta, I wonder if, she could switch because Mondays is just really hectic for me.
Okay,
Because, by the time I get home, I have to do the laundry for the girls and all this stuff, so. Because I'm a nanny.
got it. Okay.
So my, just crazy day.
I've started the broadcast for any attendees who may stop in before 7:30, so there's no one here yet. Oh, actually, we do have one attendee. Alana Stone. Let me see if I can,
No, Shalana is with us.
yeah, I'm gonna promote.
Hello.
Hello.
Promote to panelist.
Hello, Alana.
Yeah.
So we won't be able to see everybody, right?
Only if, right now, the only people who have their cameras on are gonna be the panelists, the member. So Alana should be able to turn on her camera now.
Is my
Everybody
camera on?
should who's been invited to the Zoom meeting in
Everyone who
the
was
traffic
invited.
commission.
Yeah, the way it works is there are, for a webinar, you have participants and attendees.
Right.
So the participants have full access. They can turn their cameras, be seen. The attendees have to either be promoted to a panelist or they have to be given permission to speak.
So how
So
many do we have in total that will be able to view?
I think, was it 9 members on the commission or 7 members?
Nine, is it 9? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so you have
So 9 of us.
4 members of the commission right now.
Okay.
So am I going to be able to share my screen at all?
You should be able to.
Okay.
You hover over the screen. You see at the bottom, probably the center of the screen.
Share
is
screen.
Share screen.
All right, let me just try because I did a little work. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so let me just stop that.
So it's a PowerPoint
I
presentation.
tried to take a few screenshots so that, you know, it could be a little productive here. Okay. Second.
So I think that Shannon mentioned she has a hard stop at 8. Is that correct?
Sharon did, yeah, that's why I'm going to help out. Because otherwise
I
it's a
think
half
the
an hour
meeting
meeting.
directly after. What?
Otherwise it's a half an hour meeting. Let me just see.
No,
I-
officially,
I don't,
yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get much done anyway, right? Because Jerry's not here.
What's that?
I don't think we're gonna get a lot done anyway because Jerry's not
Hello?
here to tell us what was done and what was, from the agenda. Because we're going back from, what is it, March?
Yeah,
Yeah, right? And Dan, you're not aware of this stuff, right?
I haven't been keeping up to
Yeah, they haven't
with
even
everything
gone.
on the traffic commission. I mean, I looked
Yeah.
over some of the items on the agenda tonight, and I can certainly offer my opinion on
Yeah.
some of them.
Perfect.
Can you hear me now or not?
We can
Yeah.
hear you.
Very.
You can hear me?
Very
Loud and
clear.
Very
clear.
loud.
Okay, okay. 'Cause-
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the only one who's on mute right now is David.
All right. Is Sharon going to be here at all?
Shannon? Shannon?
Yeah,
I have not heard to the contrary.
okay.
David's having issues unmuting.
Yes.
Bottom left corner, right?
Yes, the bottom left corner.
Try the bottom left. Oh, he can't hear us, sadly.
Or you can't hear us either?
Well, if he's on mute,
No,
can he hear
if-
us?
If he's
If he's
only
on mute?
on mute,
Yeah,
he'll
he's
be
good.
able to hear
Yeah.
us.
That's right. Okay, you hit the microphone.
Actually, can you share your screen with us, David? Click on the icon at the bottom of the screen in the middle where it says share screen. It might be I just select a different microphone source, but okay. Okay, David, in the lower left-hand corner where it says mute my audio, or mute, can you open that up? No. Yeah, all I see is a white screen. Is that what you have up, or is there? Okay. That's odd. You wanna? I hate giving you the standard IT advice. You wanna try and reboot and see what happens?
Maybe it's a Wi-Fi issue.
I mean, as a alternative, if you're, won't let you unmute. Okay. What you could do.
I did it.
Okay, you
Yay.
got it. Okay.
Good job.
You,
got
Dan was keeping me from being able to unmute.
I'm sorry.
Well, you're on now. That's all that counts.
Yeah. And Dan, you have to remember that I and some of the others may be using an iPad. And
Yeah,
so
so am I, so am I.
those are all
Oh,
different.
yeah.
Just a different layout.
That's true.
Hey there, gang.
I am.
Shannon.
Wow, Lucia, you got a lot going on in the background here. We got butterflies and hearts and pictures and
Oh, me, oh, these are all the kids I want. And all the cards that they write for me, and I just
Aw.
sent you an email.
all right, I'll go take a look.
When you get a chance, please. I'm folding laundry as we're talking.
Hey,
Yankee game on, huh, Dave?
That's the old Yankee Stadium.
The old.
That's the second old Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
well, good old Robert was just sending something about Zoom etiquette, and I feel like responding to him, man, if I got to hear one more lecture about Zoom etiquette.
I still have time, right?
You get
Alana
16 minutes.
Yeah, we don't officially kick off till 7:30, I believe.
I don't think Dan sees the chat, Alana.
Oh, so yeah, you're unmuted, so everyone hears you. Alana, okay. Asked to unmute.
You
Okay.
should unmute herself, yeah?
I'm sorry, you know what? I tried the headsets and I think it messed it up, but now I'm good, I think, right?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sorry. I wonder why we have to get here so early.
Yeah,
Shannon, look at you, you look so different, you look good.
Well, COVID
would-
blonde, baby. COVID
Yeah,
blonde.
No, it's brave during the pandemic to
No, nothing is brave right now. Like everything, let's keep it all in perspective. It was just like, if not now, when?
Oh my goodness.
And I
that's so
can't
funny.
get another tattoo right now. So
All right, that sounds good.
So now the shops are open again. That was phase 3.
yeah, yeah,
I know.
Listen, I'm still my trainer and I meet outside. We do outdoor classes and stuff like that. So I feel like if I can't go to a gym, I'm not gonna let someone put a needle in me.
Yeah. Not a bad idea.
Hey, Karen.
I got a visitor. Can you see this head popping up?
Oh, yeah.
Aw.
Like glue. Like glue.
I
Oh,
know.
can't leave.
I saw this cute cartoon. It was a picture of a cat's reaction to the quarantine, a dog's reaction to the quarantine. And the cat was like, "When will this thing end?"
Yeah,
And the dog is like, I hope this never ends.
of course.
Right, exactly. Cat's like, get out of here. Go do something.
Hey, Dan, any idea when we might be able to go to real meetings or not?
So right now, the open meetings law is suspended until August 8th.
Oh, okay.
But-
So that's
but it's
prior to
all-
our next meeting.
But, here's the but.
But.
The governor pretty much waits until the last day to extend it for 1 month. That's
Right.
when all the executive orders end. You can only do them for 30 days at a time, so.
Okay.
My guess is we'll probably see this till at least Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Yeah.
It's only
Oh.
one more.
Okay, all right. no,
That's
Labor
only
Day.
one
That's-
more.
I mean, the fact is,
Yeah, no,
as bad as it got in New York, we're in
good hands.
good shape now,
Ah.
but the rest of the
It's
country,
They put in the hard work and people obeyed the rules, most of them.
yeah,
Thank God, yes.
Yeah.
Thank God.
and we didn't escape totally unscathed in the village.
No, absolutely.
I think
No.
George was at the last board meeting. I think he said there's something like 14 active cases in the village right now, which is, I think we probably had dozens and dozens.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would get the weekly report when I dump the compost.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
boy.
like the compost guy.
Oh, he knows?
I have no idea if he really knows, but that data point was really just something he wanted to talk about every week. So,
Yeah.
you know how many
Yeah.
people died this week?
Oh, Lord. It's so sad.
Well, I mean, listen, unfortunately, there's a nursing home in the village. And
Yeah, yeah,
that was,
absolutely.
There were quite a few people who had it in Shore Acres here.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, but
Yeah,
when-
we had a couple of people in my building at the regatta that had.
Upstairs real quick.
yeah.
Oh, it's too bad.
I think Augie had, well, the clerk's office made an announcement at a meeting. And, I hate to be morose, but
Sure.
an average month they'll do about 10 burial permits a month.
Yeah.
Month of April they did 50.
They did 50 in the month of April.
People, that was mostly
Wow.
Sarah Newman, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now my youngest stepdaughter works at the Osborne, and it was really, really difficult there for a while.
Yeah, a neighbor had a parent there and she got it, but she recovered. Thank God.
Yeah. That's unusual. Yeah.
Yeah. Very sad.
So what, while we're waiting for the official meeting to start, Dan, what's the official process for if we want to rethink the day/time of our monthly traffic commissioners meeting?
I think what you would do is just you can consider it as an item on your agenda and ask the board if it's permissible for you to reschedule.
Okay, cool. I
Yeah,
think Mondays
pretty
might be
straightforward.
difficult for some. I know Lucia just sent me a message, and I would dearly love to start a little bit earlier, especially if we're in virtual world, because, I mean, I've got an 8 o'clock Zoom that I got to run, so I'm going to have to jump off and pass off to Alana to chair the last half of tonight's meeting. But yeah, I mean, if we're not conflicting with other commissions or boards or anything like that, I don't know about you guys, but 7 o'clock, at least then you have a little bit of an evening afterwards, right?
Yeah,
And I think there are
I'm
some. There may be
I
one or
agree.
two
If we
boards
could
that
just
actually-
change,
I think there may be 1 or 2 boards that actually do have meetings which start at 7 p.m.
Cool.
I'd rather do 7 also, but if if we could change the meeting, that would be great too.
The day, yeah.
The day, I just didn't realize how crazy it was going to be.
Oh, David says he's now muted, Dan.
Okay?
I see
have to
Shannon.
unmute.
Okay, so yeah, I'd like to be able to unmute myself without asking. Is that possible?
Should be.
able to. All you do is just click the mic. Well, I don't know what the
When he's,
iPad
yeah, he's an
screen looks
iPad,
like.
right?
Yeah,
If you hover toward the bottom, David, do you see the little banner?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah,
Can you hear
Sharon,
us?
I know how to unmute myself,
Okay.
but there seems to be a setting set up for this meeting that
Oh.
only the organizer can unmute. So I like during meetings like this where I'm going to speak very rarely to spend most of my time muted, and then
Okay.
only mute myself when I want to speak, but
Okay.
if that's not possible, I can just leave myself live.
You should be able to do it now.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Alana, we can.
Yeah, can you try to-
I can't hear you.
Oh, no.
Oh, I know. What I have to do.
Alana, you should have did a test with Sally. I did, because I had no clue how to do. You know what happened? Any Zoom meeting I watched, like the planning board or ZBA, I would always wave my hand, but they could never hear me because I didn't know what I was doing.
Too funny. Too funny. This is how I spend my life, guys. So I actually happened to I see Larry is on. Fantastic. I happened to run into Andy LaRocca, who was on Waverly Bridge doing live measurements just yesterday.
Oh, that's good.
You know, so that was really super helpful. I guess he was able to attend the last BOT meeting where the Waverly Bridge project was discussed, or maybe it was a meeting with the consultant. You know, and
That's so
obviously,
good.
yeah. No, I mean, he's interested in making sure that whatever the new bridge looks like, it's going to accommodate his biggest, most difficult ladder truck. But you know, he's in our court too in terms of safety and access and just trying to protect the interests of the local neighbors there, you know.
That's really, really great.
Yeah, no kidding.
Nice to hear progress. So how many people are on right now?
Dan, are you staying in the meeting?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Excelente. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
I wonder if we'll have our fire department and police department.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know if Andy's going to make it tonight, Shannon?
He said he was, yeah. So we've got 7 minutes.
Okay.
I know I'm chilling in the garage because, so I'm oversharing perhaps, but the old man has given up putting his hearing aids in. So, because he doesn't communicate with anyone. I mean, he doesn't communicate with anyone during normal times, but so COVID to him is like, people are like, how's he doing? I'm like, his life is unchanged. Like,
This is your,
completely.
obviously your father, right?
He's a, well, he should be, but yeah, no, he's
How old is he?
he's
You are so bad, Shannon.
yeah.
Oh my God, you're so funny.
But he
Are you
literally
having-
he literally hates people. So like he's fine, you know. He's totally 1,000% fine. He's like,
Is he cognizant of things? Is his mental?
oh yeah,
capacity?
yeah. No, he's English, and he's grumpy, and you know he would be 1,000% comfortable never having to interact with another human being the rest of his life. You know, and he's like, and I am like the eternal extrovert. I crave human contact. So I've built systems and processes to keep myself sane, but like he has no comprehension for how painful this is, you know?
Oh, right. Because he was like, "What's different? This is how
Yeah,
it should be
he's
for
like-
everyone."
Why would you need to talk to people in person? Like that's weird, you know? Like,
How old is he?
72. So
Well, my dad's coming up on 85, and he's basically the same person.
yeah.
I sent him down to Florida in March when this first hit, thinking that it would be safer.
Right.
Now
Oh,
look what happened.
is he
I
like at
know.
least quarantined in a good place?
Well, he is, and my sister lives down there, so we were just hoping that that would be a good solution.
Yeah.
A little different. She's a little different than I am. My father was living with me, and I
Okay.
took care of him with my husband, and she's not that kind of person.
She's like, nah.
She's not like, she's like hands off. So he's a little isolated, which I'm concerned with.
Respect.
Yeah, well,
It's a lot. I can do
I
it.
won't overshare. So
No, I
I have my
gotcha.
opinions, and they're strong.
I'm her.
That's I will take a child over elder care any day of the week.
Oh my God.
Shannon, you're
I
in.
hear you.
And you rename
You have
yourself,
an
Andy?
impersonator, Shannon. There's an
Yeah.
impersonator.
Oh,
There's another Shannon
I'll
on here.
rename him.
You're funny.
is someone like giving themselves a name? What is? I see Dan, David, Larry. I feel like I'm on Romper Room and
Did I
Friends.
spell your name right, Andy?
Oh, he just changed it.
Good.
Andy had Shannon's name.
Yeah.
Aw,
Oh, yeah,
Andy,
I changed his name.
you flatter me.
Shannon, you said you're in the garage?
I am, yeah, because
there?
the TV volume is up on about 98 right now, so it's the only place that I can actually hear you guys.
You have air
You have air
conditioning?
conditioning?
What's that?
You have
You have
air
air
conditioning in
conditioning?
the garage?
No, I have a fan on me, and it's actually, I'm in the shade. It's quite lovely. The birds are singing.
Oh.
I couldn't be happier.
Lucia.
But, hi,
Hello.
I'm a pretzel, sorry.
All right, we have just 2 minutes. Are we allowed to get started a few minutes early? What do you guys think?
No, the time's posted for 7:30, so you
Dun
can't
dun
start the meeting
dun.
until the time it's posted for. And before you're ready, let me know, because I need to.
Are you going to record this?
Yeah.
Ooh. No, this is important, and I'll extract something that I know Robert probably included in his video, because I have watched a couple of recorded village Zoom meetings, and you guys are fine. I mean, you're not showing up shirtless. You're not showing up, with kind of like the bottom.
Please, I hope that's not an option.
But I will say that, because this has become sort of this pandemic way of communicating personally, professionally, and everything like that, I've seen a couple of meetings where people's behavior really is different than I think it would be in a formal sort of around the table business setting. And I don't worry about any of us, but it's just kind of a friendly reminder, that we'll try to, keep ourselves muted, and if we've got something to add, something to say, we'll try to unmute and raise hands and things like that. But yeah, no, I watched one meeting where I'm sure Kelly and Dan know which one I'm talking about, where it was pretty appalling, actually. But yeah.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go live now.
Okay.
We have the county executive Latimer is attending the meeting, so if you don't mind, I'd allow him to speak and let us know how things are going in the county.
Wonderful.
And I just one question, did the officer show up?
I don't believe so.
Okay, all right,
Okay,
that's
so
what.
I'm gonna
Thank you,
go-
thank you.
I'm gonna go live. I'm going live on YouTube, and I'm gonna start recording the meeting. Okay, so.
I'll wait for your thumbs up, Dan.
Okay. Okay, I believe we are recording, so let me allow county executive to participate. And George, just unmute your microphone. You should be able to speak.
Yes, thanks, Dan. Just wanted to join you, watch some of the meeting discussions, and see if there's anything that we should be doing at the county that would be helpful to you.
Oh, thank you so much, County Executive Latimer. Really, really appreciate you joining us. It's me, Shannon.
Hey, Shannon.
You and
George
I-
is fine, by the way.
Okay, wonderful.
After to a lot worse than that.
I'm the village traffic commission chair, and this is actually going to be the first meeting we've held since COVID sort of shut us all down. So it's an exciting time. We have a wonderful group of volunteer commissioners here who are not only committed to sort of making sure that residents' concerns are reflected and discussed and analyzed in a thoughtful way, but as I'm sure Dan probably shared with you, the village a year ago now adopted the Vision Zero approach to traffic safety. And so our end goal in all of these discussions is to try to maximize safe, accessible transportation for all modes, but especially, you know, paying attention to folks on their feet and on their bikes and trying to access transit. So we try to keep that spirit in mind as we go through our deliberations. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick it back over to Dan for a moment. We each got an agenda. First, I guess, George, I'll ask you, do you have any kind of opening remarks or anything that you want to add, or you just want to kind of listen in?
I think it's helpful for me just to know what the priorities are, and I'll listen probably for about a half an hour. And if I can be helpful to you in any way, you just reach out to me and I'm happy to go from here.
Terrific.
Shannon, can we, if there's any issues that we need his help on, should we move those to the front of the agenda?
Well, right now that's going to require me to quickly scan and remind
Yeah.
myself of.
As an aside, just while you're talking, I know one issue that's come up again and again is a school zone on the Post Road by Rhinebeck High School and Middle School. And, you know, there's been so much talk about that. I don't know if you can even help us. I know that you did that for Mamaroneck High School, but it's something that I hear all the time.
When I was in the state legislature, we pushed for that because it is a state law. The county doesn't have control over it, but will certainly support it with a letter of endorsement if you do go to the state, Steve Otis and Shelley Mayer, to try to accomplish that. But it is a state authority to grant.
Right. It's a state route. My guess is, Alana, you know, and I think that we certainly did a walking safety assessment of the portion of the Post Road in front of Mamaroneck High School as it concerned sort of the, you know, walking area from the Orienton neighborhood. If that's something that we know is another common concern or complaint, we should maybe think about scheduling our next walking safety assessment there.
That's a good idea.
So.
One thing, while George is on the line, you know, one of the things that this commission had asked about, and when George first became the county executive a couple of years ago, was the relocation of the crosswalk at Waverly and Mamaroneck Avenue. And I told you at the time the county is going to be resurfacing Mamaroneck Avenue, I think from White Plains down to the railroad bridge.
Yeah.
And we've got the 30% design plans a couple weeks ago. We reviewed it, and the relocation of the crosswalk is in those plans.
Nice.
So,
Good, Dan.
Very
The only
well
other
done.
thing I would just say before I remain quiet for the rest of the time, don't worry about it tonight, but as you look at any of the issues in front of you, I would just look and see which roads in the village are county roads, and then you may want to send me a note separately that just say, here's some of the issues we have on those county roads. That's where we have a direct involvement. And rather than take up time tonight, just leave that as a future follow-up, and we'll be happy to work with you, and Catherine Parker as well.
Perfect.
What about
Perfect.
Fenimore? Is Fenimore one of those roads?
Yep. We can kind of like make a compilation, you know, because some of them we have already kind of done some of our walking safety assessments, and some of them we have in the queue. But no, I think that's a fantastic, you know, recommendation and one that we can easily follow up on. All right, so
Great.
We do have a limited time tonight, and you know, I'm going to leave you in Alana's capable hands a little bit before 8 o'clock, because unfortunately I have an 8 o'clock Zoom that I've got to jump off for as well. But let's just, does everybody have a copy of the agenda? I think Elena sent it to us. Oh, let's see.
Last week.
Yep, on July 15th. Right, perfect. So in old business, and these are just kind of to refresh ourselves on where these things are right now.
Just remember, Shannon, that Jerry's not here, so we probably,
Correct.
you know, not going to be able to, you know, because this is all happened right after the corona, you know, and I don't think anything
That's-
really done.
That's right. But I have utter faith that Dan and Jerry share the same head. So.
Okay. Okay.
So, okay, so Brook Street parking, that I believe was, and I'm just looking at the backup for this.
Shannon, I can update you on that because that was at our last meeting.
Wonderful.
So what happened was there were some changes to the signage on Brook Street, and the residents are having a hard time finding parking. So they actually sent in, I believe it was Benjamin Browning, sent in some pictures of the, the limited parking that the residents can't park on their own street. And they were suggesting that we instead change it to the green dot where they can get an area permit. Do you remember this, Dan? So that the
Yeah.
residents could park on their own streets?
Yeah, but if that's not in the list of roads that are approved, that means we have to go back to the New York State Legislature to get that added.
Right.
I hate to, George helped us get that set up actually. The goal of the program was to prevent commuters from parking on the streets closest to the train station. It was never meant as a way to ensure, parking for all the residents who live there. And the fact is, unfortunately, you have one family, two family homes, and even in the one family homes, if it's a couple of parents and two kids, you may have 4 cars for a driveway that was only designed for 2. But the residential parking program was not designed for that situation. It was specifically designed to prevent commuters from parking on the street. So I don't know what our ability to get that added by the state legislature would be. It would be a very tough road to hoe, I believe.
I think I do remember this from several months back, and I think, two things. First of all, just kind of in general, we agreed, I know at least conceptually, to make sure that no matter what, we get back to whoever it is that submits these complaints. Because I think in past years, unfortunately, sometimes the traffic commission would talk about something and be like, there's nothing we can do about it, shelve it, let's move on, and the resident would never hear back, and that's just sort of bad business. But I echo where Dan's going with this. I mean, if it's a matter of somebody needs a parking space because they have physically disabled older parent, somebody needs a parking space because some sort of extenuating circumstances, then that's something that I think we can and should pursue. But if it's just kind of a matter of like convenience or not, I'm not sure. I mean, forget it. We'll be making ourselves mad trying to appease everybody to, fit their third or fourth car, right?
Yeah, I think I may have actually spoken to this person now that it does seem familiar. And I think, the driveway he has, I think, can fit at least 3 vehicles.
Right.
I remember looking at the overhead because I think this was the house at the corner of Brook and Melbourne.
Right.
I can't recall.
Beach. I think it was Brook and Beach.
Brook and Beach, okay.
Yeah.
If I could just add this, when we did get the state permission and in Washingtonville, because of a commuter parking problem there, we did that. And then what has happened is the next street over that we didn't get, then everybody just migrates there.
Spillover, right.
This creeping area that you try to say, okay, we're going to have parking permits for residents in this area. And then it just needs to grow and grow. It's
a game of whack-a-mole.
Yep. You're never gonna satisfy the demand. And frankly, if I might be so bold, I mean, right now we're in a situation where, people are warding off transit, right? They're unwilling to utilize the B line, which frankly is free right now and very safe. I mean, there's an enormous amount of space between where you board on the bus and where the driver is. What I feel should be doing, both from an environmental standpoint and from a cost saving standpoint and from a let's stop trying to accommodate folks that have, all these cars that they want to shelve on the streets, is to really get out of the business of trying to appease these sort of one-off, like, I need more parking, unless it's a situation where it's an accessibility issue. You know, and I don't mean to sound unreasonable or unkind, but you know, I just fear and I feel that we spend way too much time on this commission, you know, talking about parking issues when we're really should be focused on safety, you know.
You know, I think one of the issues is that there's, you know, when you have a multifamily and there's all these variances, that it creates parking issues for the rest of the community. And so, I mean, Kelly, I mean, as something that might be a takeaway for the zoning committee is, and maybe it's already in place, but is there some sort of a rule that if you're asking for a variance in a neighborhood that doesn't have the capacity for that many cars, are there rules around, you know, allowing a single family to become a multifamily where it creates lots of parking issues?
Well, I'll just say that by nature of a zoning variance, when you're looking for and a zoning variance is looking for an exception to the zoning law, and by necessity, there just isn't a hard and fast no. It's this weighing of many factors. So
Yeah, I don't think there's even a parking requirement for residential zones. I think that only applies to the commercial and the industrial.
So I'm hearing, and please somebody jump in if I'm mischaracterizing this, but I'm hearing that for this particular observation, comment, complaint, you know, that we need to let the resident know that this is something that would require a legislative change from the county, you know, that
from the state.
or from the state rather,
Yeah.
and that it's something that, you know, unless and until we have sort of an uprising in his neighborhood saying like none of us can find parking anywhere, it would be really, really difficult to obtain. I see Dan's on the phone, but does that sound reflective of what we're talking about?
No, absolutely, I agree.
Okay.
And it's just gonna get worse. Mark.
Yep.
It's gonna get worse. All these buildings that are going up, you know, I mean, you can't find as it is. You know?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Which
Okay,
is why-
Shannon, I can circle back with everybody for today's meeting since you're not going to be here the whole time. I'm happy to circle back.
With the gentleman
Yeah.
who. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Alana.
Okay,
Appreciate
yeah.
that. Okay, excellent.
I think also we were going to ask the board if somebody wouldn't mind doing that.
That's right.
Remember, and I think I volunteered Karen.
Yeah, that was so nice of you to think of me. I appreciated that. I think what I had said was, I was willing to do that. I just was trying to get
Exactly.
myself acclimated with this
Yes.
whole thing because
Yes.
that was my first meeting, I believe.
You were,
So yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Do you know what? I actually have an idea, and I don't know if this is the time to talk about it, but one of my ideas is for each member of the board to champion an issue. So if there are 10 issues on the agenda, one person would own each of the issues, because I think it gets overwhelming for one person to keep all the contacts and to keep all the status. I mean, even the task list became overwhelming. But if
Right.
there's how many of us on the board? If we each champion one or two issues and we're responsible for the progress and we're responsible for the follow-up, I think it would be much more effective.
I think
How
that's
do-
a
I
good
don't know how you
idea.
feel.
Certainly in terms of, you know, when the agenda is presented for each of us to sort of get tagged with one thing
Yes.
to research, to, you know, go out and visit it and figure it out. I agree, Alana. I think, you know, in fact, you're echoing what I just had. Elena sent me a new traffic incident report form at 4 p.m. today and said, do you want this on tonight's agenda? And I said, listen, and, you know, I know, you know, Kelly and Dan were in on the conversation. I think we need to institute a date every month
We did. though.
after which if something comes in after the 15th of the month, it ain't going on this month's agenda.
That's right, but that's what we did, so we, because of whatever happened. So I think it was, Elena sends out the agenda on a Friday, so I think that that Monday we should take no more, you know,
Right.
open items.
Right.
Yeah, there has to be a
And-
hard cutoff when you
Right.
decide
Right.
this is how much
Right.
we can fit into this
Right,
month.
right.
Right.
Yeah, because it gets
So-
way out of hand, and it's not fair to her, and it sure isn't fair to us, you know, so.
Well, and
So,
right. And to be fair, we
starting-
haven't met
yeah.
since March, so
Yeah.
Right,
I get
right.
it that there's an accumulation. But yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
let's focus on what we've got in hand tonight, you know,
Yeah.
and see if we can get
Yes.
through it. And then
Shannon.
any
Starting tonight, can we have people volunteer, as we hit an issue and then somebody says, yes, I understand this issue, I will champion it? Is that something we could do going forward? Or do you feel like we need to get buy-in from everybody?
yeah, let's find out how everybody else is feeling here. So I'm gonna go ahead and call out our silent majority over here. So let's hear from the gentlemen on the group. Andy, Larry, David, how do you guys feel about, you know, and I feel like tonight it's a little bit like off the cuff, but perhaps for the August meeting, if once we get the agenda, I was even to sort of just randomly assign item 1 will be Karen, item 2 will be Alana, item 3 will be David. Would you guys be comfortable with that?
Instead of you assigning them, why don't you first ask for volunteers?
I could.
That would show if somebody has a particular interest in one of the issues, it would be more conducive to them.
Or if you're of that neighborhood, say there's an incident and someone's very familiar with that neighborhood. Like for instance, I'm a resident of Shore Acres, I would know more and, you know, I could target that being that I have more
point.
familiarity.
Yes.
Good point.
You'd
Okay.
be
Very
able
smart.
to reach out.
We'll
Good
give it a
job.
shot for the August meeting, gang.
Okay, so you know, what I'll do with my follow-ups today is, you know, everybody will choose what they want to champion, and I will CC you on the follow-up the follow-up email if you're the champion, and you'll take it from there. But I'll take care of this week's follow-up, but I'll just
Thanks, Alana.
CC. Is that okay?
Wonderful.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Good idea.
You mentioned something about, you know, replying to people with letters. I've been doing this a long time. I have dozens and dozens and dozens of traffic safety response letters. And because every issue that you can think of, I've pretty much, you know, had brought to my attention in the past. So I have the format if you'd like to see some of those.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, and then in many cases, you know, I'm not even sure that it requires a seriously lengthy formal letter. It's just kind of an acknowledgement and here's what we discussed and here's, yeah, no, I think that's great. All right, I'm going to rudely push forward through old business because I am hoping that we can get to new business item number 1 before I have to sign off.
Okay, so I'm sorry, before you go, so what's going on with Brooks Street? Alana's gonna contact the person or Karen?
I'll do it. It's a dead issue, so there's no follow-up after my email, so I'll do
Right,
that.
you're just gonna tell her that they have
Yeah.
to contact the state. It's a state issue, right?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, that's right.
Okay,
Thank you, Alana. Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, next we have 325 Prospect Avenue driveway obstruction. Remove all parking to the south side from Prospect to Mount Pleasant. Add parking on the north side of Prospect from Fenimore to Maple. And I believe that this was going to be part of our walking safety assessment, the next one that we had planned, right?
Yes.
Right.
So,
Yes.
you know, I know that I believe that the resident involved in this traffic incident report was going to be part of that walking safety assessment that we
Yeah.
desperately need to reschedule.
Just so you know, from last meeting, Jerry there was an issue where somebody had an obstructed driveway and they said
Yep.
they couldn't see. And he said it's a dead issue. It's already been decided. We're already moving. So I think it's done. I think it's a done issue. They're moving the parking from one side of the street to the other. So it's not going to be a problem for that resident anymore.
Terrific.
So it's done? It's done?
He said that it's been decided. I thought he said that. Yeah.
Okay, but is it actually done though? Can we take
I'll
off?
follow up with Jerry. That'll be my follow-up. Will be for Jerry to just verify that this is already done. I mean, I don't know if it's done. I think it was decided.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could take it off until it's actually done. you
Yeah,
know, And then we have problems like we had in the past.
Yep.
right?
I'll CC you, okay? Lucia, I'll CC you on the
Yes,
email.
please.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you both, and I will also follow up. I know, you know, we had been postponing any more walk safety assessments because of COVID, but you know, I think that we're approaching a point, certainly with sort of the rephasing of openings of places and things like that, where we might be able to, and I have a good model from America Walks, arrange one of these walk safety assessments where we can do so in a safely socially distanced way, holding our briefing meetings outside and stuff. So I got to speak with Jerry about that. Okay.
I think in the attendees, 8511, maybe someone from the police department. Let me check.
Yep.
Is
Yep,
what,
absolutely.
8511, is this someone from the police department?
851.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you wanna give us a name so we don't have to
Yeah.
call you someone from the police department?
Yeah, Lieutenant Dominic Falcone.
Hey,
Oh,
Don.
Dominic Papa, okay.
Thanks
I know
so much for
8511.
joining us.
No problem.
Wonderful. All right. The next one I know for sure is a dead issue. Fenimore Road, 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. You know, this is one of those, you know, is it a county, is it a village? And I think that Fenimore, we learned, you know, is kind of bifurcated, but that the village does not have the authority to set that speed limit. Is that the case, Dan?
I'm not aware. The only bifurcate, I think the county roads in the village are Palmer, Mount Pleasant, Mamaroneck Avenue. I think that might be it. I don't think any part of Fenimore is a county road. Maybe I'm correct. I'll take a look at the county map to verify that. But while I do that, you can, you know, go to the next item. Let me just find
Dan?
out.
Let me just jump in too on this for a second. I don't know if Fenimore is or isn't a county road, but my understanding is that the local speed limit established by the state is 30 miles an hour. And to lower it below that, if it's not in a school zone, neither the county nor the village has the power to do it. That's my understanding. Dan, check it out. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's my understanding of the law.
We were actually lucky enough to discover, George, that the village could, within its authority, lower the speed limit to 25 on solely local roads if they were not corridors.
Okay.
And so, you know, what Tom did, I think now about a year and a half ago, right, was to, you know, announce that village-wide we're lowering it to 25. And that, of course, is applicable to every place except for those roadways that Dan just mentioned. And Fenimore's always been one of those, like, do we own it? Does the county? We're not quite sure, you know, so.
Well, I'll say this categorically. If there's a road that the county owns and you want it to be lowered to 25 and we have the authority to do it, we'll do it. Just send a letter asking for us to
Beautiful.
do it. If it's within our power, we'll do it.
Beautiful.
As gracious as the county executive is, unfortunately, Fenimore is not a county road. I can share my screen with you to show the county road map if you'd like.
I remember this discussion the last time we had it, and it is not a county road. I know that Catherine Parker looked into this for a while for us, and it was determined at the time that it was a village road, but it was one of these, I forget what were they called, Shannon? It was a
Arterial roadway?
transportation throughway or in some way that we could not.
Secondary arterial, yeah. Okay, yeah.
It was not possible for us to change that.
Well, except that it sounds like maybe with, you know, the mayor and George's permission that we maybe could.
But I think it falls under that state law that the county executive was talking about, that it cannot be changed.
Yeah,
Okay.
Fenimore might be considered, it's probably considered at the very least a collector road, if not an arterial road.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think it's worth, you know, us really doing our homework on this one. You know, the 25-mile-an-hour village-wide speed limit should be easy enough to observe. You know, there's really, in particular now where sadly folks are getting back into their cars at an increasing rate, and, you know, congestion is picking up. And, you know, we know that at the national level anyway, when you look at what's causing crashes right now, because the volume is still not where it was a year ago, what's causing crashes is that people are stressed and they've been locked up and they get out behind the wheel and they're speeding and they're driving aggressively. And they're doing so in an environment where there's an increase in pedestrian and bicycle traffic because, again, people are locked up. They have nothing else to do. So, you know, I mean, I think it's more important now than ever to really do what we can to keep those speeds controlled so that we minimize the risk for severe injury in crashes.
Absolutely.
You know, so whatever we can do to do our homework and figure out what flexibility we have with Fenimore. Fenimore is, let's face it, just one of the main, whether they're using it as a bypass from Amerenik Ave or whatever, to, you know, get from that sort of Scarsdale White Plains area down to Boston Post Road. So
who wants to champion this one? Is there somebody who would like to champion this to do follow-up and find out?
I mean, I can ask our traffic consultant, Mr. Carmody, if it's feasible.
Perfect.
That's easy enough. And
Dan, who are you gonna ask?
our traffic
Matt
consultant, Mr.
Carmody, yeah.
Okay.
Are there any questions on the county map before I stop sharing my screen? Okay.
No, sir. Thank you. I have 3.5 minutes. Okay. So do you all mind if I just skip forward for a moment here? I know we have one more piece of old business. I just want to, and I know that there was lots and lots of backup materials submitted for some of our new business. If you'll just bear with me for 30 seconds, I want to put in a plug before I pass the rest of the meeting off to Alana to facilitate. The first piece of new business regarding the Waverly Avenue Bridge. We know that this is a project that's been in discussion and consultation and analysis for some time. We know that the existing bridge is frankly dangerous for both vehicle and pedestrian bicycle traffic. It's in a terrible state of disrepair. It's not equipped to carry the level of volume it carries right now. So it absolutely needs to be replaced. And by replacing it, of course, it's going to require a closure of that key sort of connectivity between Washingtonville and Fenimore Road. What I know I've observed, and I hope that you all, you know, had time to kind of look at the backup, is that for folks who live in that neighborhood, you know, there's already a sense, and I don't think unfairly so, that too often, you know, places like Center Avenue and Waverly are used as cut-throughs and
Signs all over.
right? You know, and this is a very cozy residential neighborhood of single and multifamily homes with narrow streets, little street parking as it is, you know, and really, you know, to sort of jeopardize what little bit of sort of safety and protection they feel they have right now by potentially increasing truck traffic and things like that through a widened, you know, thoroughfare type bridge, I think is something that is nothing that we want to promote. You know, it's also, and I'll tell you this because I walk and bike there frequently, not a safe place for pedestrians to cross. It's not there's visible.
No, it's terrible.
Right? We talked about, and I know that it's in the works with the village,
Yeah.
moving that stop sign from the UFC side to the new Lofts side of the bridge, right?
Mhm.
You know, so there have been a couple of creative solutions proposed, and I know that the project is definitely in discussion right now. I know that Andy has some thoughts on this to make sure that it can still accommodate the ladder trucks and things like that. I would just say before I hand this off to the very capable Alana to facilitate the rest of the meeting, think about this in terms of Vision Zero. And a couple of the tenets of our Vision Zero initiative in this village are to A, make sure that our roadways are safe and accessible for every user. And that means not necessarily prioritizing volume, not necessarily prioritizing speed for vehicles, but prioritizing everyone's ability to walk or bike or scoot or wheel or whatever the case may be, you know, from their home to where they want to go. And if this is an area that already feels unsafe for the neighbors, then, you know, we as a traffic commission need to think carefully about what we can do to influence and impact, preventing that from becoming even worse. So that's my little spiel. That's my speech. And sadly, and I really hate doing this because I miss you guys terribly, and I'm hoping we can get together in person in a couple of months. But I do have to bounce off so I can start up this 8 o'clock Zoom. George, I really appreciate you joining us tonight, and everybody else, thank you, Alana, for
Thank
agreeing.
you.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Hi, Shannon.
See you
Thanks,
all.
Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
Bye,
And
all.
I'm going to say goodbye
Bye.
too. I'm going to say goodnight also. Pleasure to be
Bye,
with you.
George.
Let me sit
Thanks,
in.
George.
Thank you, George, for everything you do.
Okay, have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Stay safe.
So do we want to continue on the Waverly Avenue since she kind of got us started?
Alana, can I interrupt for a quick
Yeah,
second?
yeah.
I meant to say something
If you don't mind,
earlier when I was jumping in the
Mayor Murphy.
shower. I have a hard stop at 8:15. I didn't want to change this, but my sons have to do a Zoom with them.
Okay, no, that's fine.
So I'm sorry, I meant to say it, but I got caught up talking to you.
Okay.
Alana, Mayor Murphy is also in the attendees. You mind if I'm going to allow him to speak?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Goodbye.
Hi.
Mayor Murphy, you're on if you'd like to speak.
No,
Hi, Tom.
hi, how are you, everybody?
Good. Are you back from vacation?
Yeah, I got back.
Oh, that's nice. Did you have a good time?
I had an excellent time. I feel rejuvenated.
Great, great.
I-
So we were just kind of getting through the old business, and we kind of jumped forward to talk about the Waverly Avenue Bridge. And Shannon gave us kind of a good overview of some of the issues that she was considering. Should we continue on that since we sort of started? Does anybody else want to weigh in? I know that Kelly, are you part of that committee?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
the Vision Zero committee?
No, I know that there was an email earlier about the Waverly Bridge. Is somebody going to be going back to give our feedback, or do I need to email that to somebody for the Waverly Avenue Bridge?
You should follow up with them because they are waiting. They're doing things on several fronts. They're talking to the Board of Trustees. They've also brought to the Board of Traffic Commissioners. So it should be almost on all fronts.
Okay, so I mean, is everybody familiar with the Waverly Avenue Bridge? So it was surprising to me to hear that trucks go through that. It's a very residential street. Is that true? Is that the case right now, or will it give it capability for trucks to go through?
No.
It was my understanding from the last meeting, and Dan Sarnoff may be able to correct me on this, but that trucks are not permitted. That it's an enforcement issue.
Right. They'll do it until they're caught.
There's
Correct.
the maximum weight of a truck that can go across that bridge. Right now.
5 tons.
That's the
Because it
only,
sounds like if it's a weight issue and all of a sudden they've fixed the weight issue and now these trucks can now make it across the bridge because the bridge has been improved, that maybe it's going to be a big,
But maintain the local.
Yeah,
like a cube of candy. They're not going to be able to resist.
Well, we
No,
do-
I think that the village does not allow, it's no through traffic for commercial vehicles. So I think by code, it's not allowed.
Like I said last week, the mayor is correct on that.
So, I mean, from what Shannon said, that sounded like a big issue. Are there any other issues with the Waverly Avenue Bridge that you would want to bring up?
I have an issue I'd like to bring up because whether the bridge is going to be under construction or accessible or limited or whatever, everybody seems to be proposing that we use Hoyt Avenue. Hoyt Avenue, unless you put some kind of traffic control device on the southbound side in front of the ice house, can be a tremendous bottleneck. I've been on Hoyt Avenue where it was backed up from that stop sign all the way back to Mamaroneck Avenue. And especially since all tractor trailers, commercial vehicles are using Hoyt, unless you control the traffic, am I right or wrong, Andy? I'm right.
You're right.
Unless you control Hoyt in all directions coming onto Fenimore, it's absolutely not a good alternative for everybody to take. It's it's a tremendous bottleneck there coming back. So that has to be an issue also. And being that it's on Fenimore Road, that might be a more difficult issue. As far as who places devices, who controls the traffic on Fenimore. Is it the village? Is it the county? You know, but that needs to be addressed before you divert all the traffic onto Hoyt.
Hey, Larry, Ilana, would you mind? Can I just be heard on this for a second?
Yes. Yeah.
This is a Town of Mamaroneck project, and they presented at the last Board of Trustees meeting in some detail. And during the construction of the Waverly Avenue Bridge, when the bridge is out, traffic is going to be diverted to Hoyt. And the plan is to put a traffic light in front of the ice house, right, to control. And during that time, when traffic has to go to Hoyt, is really an ideal time to study what kind of bottlenecks you get, whether it's possible. I mean, it's really going to be a perfect time to really look at this and see whether it makes sense.
Right. Oh, that's good. That's good.
So this is just something that's going to play out during the bridge replacement anyway.
Because if you don't do that, going down Hoyt towards Fenimore, it's almost impossible to make a left turn on a Fenimore.
I know.
Right, Andy, right. We all know that. You know, I was a bus and truck driver in the village for many years, and there's so much commercial traffic on Hoyt as it is, it's almost impossible to make that left turn. But a traffic control device like a light would be great. Yeah.
I agree that diverting all the traffic to Hoyt is, I think, going to find when we do this study that it's just too much, and we need this ability to have traffic go on Waverly from Fenimore through to Mamaroneck Avenue. But that doesn't mean that the thoughts that the residents are bringing up about safety because of the volume and the speed of the traffic can't be addressed. And we even if we allow traffic to go through from Fenimore to Mamaroneck Avenue, that doesn't mean we can't do a better job of slowing the traffic down and providing safe spots for people to cross the street on that block from the bridge to Mamaroneck Avenue.
One of the improvements that's being considered as part of the replacement is to have sidewalks on both sides of the bridge. Right now, you only have a sidewalk, I think, on the east side of the bridge, or the north side. I have to orient myself. It's the north side of the bridge. If it's replaced, it'll have sidewalks on both sides. It'll also connect to the river walk that we've been working on for a number of years over at the Mason, and would like to continue going forward. But
Dan, you talking about having sidewalk from the bridge all the way back to Fenimore?
Yeah, I believe so. We can look at that. But the other thing you mentioned about the stop sign, right now the stop sign is technically supposed to be on the Washingtonville side of the bridge, but because of the poor sight visibility because of the bridge, we have to have it on the other side, which is, we'll be able to, once we replace the bridge, it'll clear up that sight visibility issue. So that's one of the things you did mention.
But I wasn't talking about the bridge. I was talking about the block from the bridge to Mamaroneck Avenue, where you have cars on both sides. So there's very little visibility for people coming out of the driveways or crossing the street, or even opening up their car doors when they're parked. And I think we could do a better job of slowing the traffic down and improving the visibility on that street.
Which street, David?
Waverly, between the bridge and Mamaroneck Avenue.
You know, I've been driving down that street for 50 years, and I don't see a speed issue there at all. It's almost impossible to speed down Waverly. almost impossible.
I
Unless
think the
you're
issue
getting,
is it can't be
unless you're getting a lot of
throughway
complaints
for trucks.
you know, unless you're getting a lot of complaints from the residents, I don't see that as the issue.
Yeah, in
If I
terms of,
could just, can I jump in for 1 minute? We are and have been getting a lot of complaints, and this is going back over the years. I think part of what the concerns are is that it's a cut through for people, especially people who don't live in the village of Mamaroneck, from the town of Mamaroneck, going to the French American School,
Yeah.
and going to other locations. And then not only is it a cut through if you're heading toward Mamaroneck Avenue, the same folks use Center Avenue as a cut through on the way back down Plaza and then back over the bridge. Now, I'm not arguing for it or against it one way or the other, but I think that being used as a thoroughfare by people outside the community really contributes to the volume of traffic in that neighborhood.
Right. Having said that, can you restrict traffic?
I don't really have an answer right now, Larry, but I think that what David was saying before about trying to do traffic calming or traffic limiting, might be the way we go. As Kelly pointed out, when they do close the bridge during the renovation, that would be a really good time to see how, how feasible it is, to divert everything down Hoyt, or to divert partial down Hoyt.
unconnected to the bridge project, we also do have a grant to replace sidewalks on Waverly Avenue through the county CDBG program.
Okay, so it sounds like one of the solutions might be to have a monitoring program going on with Hoyt, during the construction or while it's closed down, just so we can see if that could potentially be a solution in the future.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, Larry, you seem to have a pretty good understanding of the situation because of your experience. Could I CC you so that I'll write up the notes, but then if there's things that I miss, would you reply to all and add anything in additional that you think needs to be heard for this?
Well, like Kelly said, I had no idea there was going to be a traffic light installed in front of the ice house. I think, we wait and see what happens with that.
Okay, could I have you champion this for the group?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it sounds like you have interest in it, so that would be great.
I
Thank
do.
you
I
very
have
much.
friends and family in the flats too. I mean, I'm always on Center Avenue or Madison, visiting family and friends.
Yeah. So I think that's what we want. We want somebody with some skin in the game who is going to, really represent the people there. So I think that would be great.
Okay.
So who's going to take care of this?
Well, I'm going to do I'll do the follow-up email, but I'm going to CC Larry. And if there's anything that I miss, or if there's anything that you think about after the fact, or if there's any follow-up from the town with more questions, if you could take it from there, that would be great. Larry.
Right, and I'm not in contact with anybody at the town, so.
No, I'll CC you. I'll CC you. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if Trustee Winstrup mentioned this, but on our website, we posted the presentation that the town's engineer gave for the project, and also the email address for the engineer from HVEA, that's the firm doing the design, and the town engineer, Rob Wasp.
Where is that located, Dan? Where on the website?
Right on the front page. But you know what, Alana, I can email you the
that'd
address
be great.
tomorrow.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah. And we also have a monthly meeting with the design team. And even though it's not our bridge, we're very involved in the process.
So Larry, you can be as involved as you want. I mean, if they invite you to participate in those meetings, that's great. We'll see.
Dan, could you get me a little more involved in that also, as a member of the Traffic Commission?
I can certainly, yeah.
I could represent the Traffic Commission maybe at a meeting.
Okay.
That'd be fantastic. That would be fantastic.
One more question, Dan. Do you know in their plans, are they going to completely block off Waverly at Fenimore? During the
No, they're going to block off the bridge near the end of Waverly Avenue by the river. So the businesses that are you talking about, are we going to not have access to the business?
Oh, you have businesses between the bridge and Fenimore.
Yeah, those will be open. Is that the question you're asking?
Yeah, because you don't want through traffic trying to access the bridge, obviously.
Yeah.
You know.
No, but yeah, any business that's open on Waverly between Fenimore and the river, they're not going to be impacted in as far as having access to their facilities.
Okay, so let's move on, and then, you know, Larry, if there's anything extra that I can help with, definitely keep me in the loop and I'll help you also, okay? But I'll send an email tonight or tomorrow. Is there anything else on the Waverly Bridge that anybody wants to weigh in on? Okay, so then let's move, actually, let's go back real quick to the last old business item, which was
Area.
speeding on Southbury. Do you guys remember this issue from last meeting? Basically, it's that between the Boston Post Road and really the Parkway. So if you're driving from the Boston Post Road, if you're driving on Southbury from the Boston Post Road to the Parkway, it's like a highway, is what the residents said. There's no speed calming kind of things in place. They had actually asked for a stop sign, and I think what we had said was they had asked for a stop sign at Gideon or something like that. Yeah, and we said that we would take a look at it and circle back with them this month. Did anybody get a chance to look at that?
Yeah.
I could just tell you from past experience. I know years ago the police department used to position, you know, cars there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lieutenant.
That's right.
But
Yes.
they did, because the force of gravity plus the heavy foot, you know, brings people down, Barry. And you know what? It turned out that most of the violators were local residents. And because there's very little, you know, outside traffic there, it's mostly residents of that area.
Okay, I think that's a great idea, Larry. I remember talking about this last time. Does anybody want to propose that we ask for a speed trap on Gideon between the Post Road and the Parkway?
I'd like to speak before you get to that.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
I drove down there today, and that intersection of Southbury and Guyan is right at the bottom of the downhill slope as you're coming from the Post Road, and right before the bridge. So I think that would be a good spot to put a stop sign, because you'd be able to get the people to totally stop their momentum there.
Well, don't forget, you're fighting gravity too there, right, Dan?
Well, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and this is not, what I'm going to say is not popular with a lot of people. Stop signs do not slow traffic. The sign, there's, you know, study upon study upon study. You're back up to full speed within 150 feet of a stop sign. Oftentimes when people, you know, stop at stop signs, which are designed to slow down traffic, they go faster to make up for the time they perceive they lose. You're talking about a T intersection. You know, stop signs are supposed to be installed when you have, and always stop, when you have 5 or more accidents in a 12-month period. We can certainly pull the accident data. I don't think we're going to find that for this intersection. I'm just trying to be, you know, I feel like I'm being the person saying the bad news, but you know, I've seen study upon studies. You know, stop signs just, they don't slow down traffic the way people think they do.
Unmute yourself, Alana.
Thank you. Thanks, Larry. My concern is that people might not see the stop sign, and it might create a false sense of security for people who are walking. You know what I'm saying? If all of a sudden there's a stop sign, I'm a little worried. Let's just take a look at it real quick.
What's the speed limit there? What's the speed limit there?
It's either going to be 25 or 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
25.
Yeah. The one of the things that, you know, we did working a couple of years ago with some residents in Shore Acres, we tried to get a grant to bring in some pedestrian safety improvements, because Shore Acres, or sorry, Southbury Avenue is really the main one of the main walking routes for children in the Rhinebeck district. I don't know if anyone remembers Michaela Zeus when she lived in the village. She was the one who did a lot of legwork on it, but ultimately our grant program was unsuccessful.
So let's just talk about that though, real quick. You know, could it be possible to put a four-way stop right here? I mean, is that something that's doable? If this is one of the main walkways for the Rhinebeck kids to get to school, and I know for certain people speed down the street like crazy, how feasible is it to put a four-way stop there? Or is that the place for it?
No, if the board adopts a resolution, we'll install it, within a couple of days.
How do you guys feel about, from a safety perspective, all of a sudden putting a stop sign in the middle of South Berry? How do we communicate that that's there?
Well, you mean how would we communicate a new sign to residents?
Yeah, I mean, would there be like a flashing light saying slow down, stop sign ahead, or, I could just hear the screeching wheels as somebody who's been speeding there their whole life all of a sudden has to stop at a four-way stop.
So a recent, remember the intersection of Jefferson Avenue and Halsted?
Yeah.
We just put the stop sign up maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
We put up a sign saying new stop sign ahead.
Okay. And what about?
Alana, before we get to stop signs, why don't we just monitor the speed there for a month or two?
Yeah, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
That we bought these mobile
Exactly.
traffic monitoring, speed limit. It monitors the traffic, and it tells people to slow down. It tells people how fast they're going. It might be worthwhile to put one there for a month. First of all, just to educate people that they are speeding, and then to get real data.
Yeah. I love that idea. And actually, I know Karen is concerned about this. So I'm going to make Karen the champion for this. And Tom, how do we get one of those at the corner of Guion Drive and South Berry?
Let me talk to the police chief tomorrow.
Okay, I'll CC you on the email too, Tom.
Hey, Tom?
You have all the details.
I believe we have 2 of those, right?
Yeah, we have 2, Larry.
If they're not in use right now, could we put 2 of them? Because you have the same downhill effect coming out of the parkway going down to the creek as you do from the Post Road going down to the creek. And if you have 2 of them, people will know that it's a serious thing, one facing each direction.
I'll ask the chief about it, but I think we have them on duty right now telling people to wear masks. So let me ask the chief and get his input, and then I'll get back to you. Is that fair enough?
Sure.
And just to clarify, that actually collects data so that at the end of the month, we can take a look and see what the speeds were.
That's correct, Alana.
Okay, great. That sounds like a good idea. Okay.
So this is South Berry, correct?
Yeah, it's the corner of South Berry and Guion Drive.
Guion Drive?
It's the cross intersection, the intersection.
Okay.
Okay, so if there's nothing else from the old business, we'll move on to new business. Okay, and since we did Washingtonville already, the next item was a crosswalk at Palmer and Mamaroneck Avenue. So Mamaroneck Avenue obviously is our business district. Here's just a quick snapshot. Everybody knows where this is. There's Sal's and Frank and Panucci's, and the issue on the agenda is crosswalk at Palmer and Mamaroneck Avenue. Is there an issue that anybody heard of?
There is a crosswalk.
Yeah. Just need to be touched up, or?
No. I think I did that. Somebody contacted me on that. What seems to be the problem? They're not stopping for pedestrians to walk through the crosswalk. On Mamaroneck Avenue, where the upholstery place is, right there in the corner in the bank. So when you're going, when anybody is going to cross, the cars are speeding right by. They're not stopping or anything. I don't know if
There's already a sign in the middle of the intersection, stop for pedestrians and.
Yeah, yes, but they're not following it. some girl,
That's
I mean, ultimately, it's an enforcement issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if, that's what, I told her, I said we could bring it up and maybe they could, ask the police to, enforce it over there.
Yeah, the bike cops are good for that usually.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so if it's an enforcement issue, who's going to follow up on that?
I will with the resident, because I told her I would look into it. But isn't the lieutenant with us? He can.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You'll.
I can speak to my officers and make sure we always put a priority on crosswalks throughout the village. But I can speak with the bicycle officers who definitely, that's their post, and get them to do a little bit more maximum enforcement in the area for that situation.
Great, thank you
That
very
sounds
much.
great. Okay, good. The next issue, it just says visibility issue turning onto Halsted. Now, Halsted, I know between Carvel and the Chicos, nobody wants to hear it again, but that's where I got hit because people trying to pull out of Halsted, there's major visibility issues with utility poles and cars parked they're not supposed to be parked. A lot of those, first of all, does anybody know who complained and what the issue was?
Was there a cross street mentioned in the complaint?
No, it was not. It just
I think
says,
it was a generic comment about the corridor, I believe.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I think there was, a suggestion to have multiple traffic lights. I mean, that's, so we go from.
I mean, I would love to have a traffic light on Halsted. The problem is it's so expensive. So I think that the workaround has always been to make sure that trucks are not parked on the left or the right of the street, the intersection with Halsted. I know that Florence and English, and those are the streets near where I am, that it's impossible to pull out if somebody is parked where the sign, no parking here to corner. And I would assume that's the issue.
So Alana, we have a Miss Luciano who raised her hand as one of the attendees. I think she may want to speak on this issue.
Yeah, okay, yeah, great.
Okay. Ms. Luciano? Please unmute yourself.
Hi.
Is this?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So I'm actually here for the last issue, but it kind of piggybacks this. I'm here to talk about the English place at Park, but a lot of people can't see turning off of Florence to Halsted. And I think the visibility is better from English to Halsted. So I think a lot of people cut through down English to get to Halsted. I completely agree that there's a major visibility issue. That building on the corner of Florence and Halsted definitely has very limited sight lines.
So are you talking about, I'm sorry, I apologize. Are you talking about turning right off of Florence onto Halsted?
Left.
Turning, yes, left is a big issue. There's a huge utility pole there.
Yeah, yep.
And there is a van that parks there half the time, so that's
Correct.
maybe an enforcement issue. But,
Right.
yeah,
I think
I live right there, so.
Right, the cars parked on Halsted are the problem. Because you have to go so far out onto Halsted to see around whatever's parked on the left.
Any ideas? Anybody have any solutions? Any
I
ideas?
just have a comment. Not to belittle the situation at all, because I've been through it thousands of times. But, as a bus driver for the town, I used to have a lot of drops in that area. And I found that coming out of English on Halsted was a problem. Even in a bus where I was sitting up higher and had better views, I altered my route and I started exiting onto 4th, or, take Franklin to 4th or 5th. Sometimes, there are physical limitations and you just have to adjust to them. And, so I would take a different street onto Halsted. That's all. It just, sometimes that's what you have to do.
Well, Halsted was one of the first walking studies that we did, and that was one of the things in the report is just visibility coming off of the cross streets onto Halsted. So, I mean, I think the best thing to do is for residents to call the police when people are blocking, because I think the signs are already there, no parking here to the corner, which is,
Oh, you're talking about illegal parking then?
well, that's what it
I didn't know
sounds
that
like,
was
because
it.
I know from Florence, if you're on Florence taking a left onto Halsted, there's already a sign from the corner giving you enough space that nobody should be parking to the left of you.
Right. It may need to be pushed back even further,
Okay.
if that's possible.
You know what? There are some streets in that area that are a lot more, give you a lot more visibility than English. If you go to Fifth Street and come out by the firehouse, it's.
Yeah, except that that's not really fair. I mean, everybody should be able to just leave their street and feel safe.
I can't leave my own street.
What?
I can't leave my own street. I have to
Well, we should talk
leave
about your
different
street next.
blocks.
We can certainly look at the where the no parking signs are located. Were there any issues with, brush overgrowth that was, other things like that were visual obstructions, or just mostly the vehicles?
It's the utility pole. It's the utility pole in the building and parking.
I can't do much about the building at this point.
No.
But if there's an issue with the, the parking being a visual obstruction, we can certainly look at that. If there's, is it a, if we can find out whose utility pole it is, we can always, what's the worst thing that happens if we ask them to move it?
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. If we could ask them, if they're planning on ever switching it, if there's a tickler file or something where please move that utility pole. I got hit because I was walking behind that utility pole and the car taking the left-hand turn on Florence didn't see me.
So we went from Mamaroneck Avenue.
It's a problem.
Yeah, I got hit up my Mamaroneck Avenue.
Well, it's funny. After I say that, everybody's gotten hit by a car in Mamaroneck. So anyway, Andy, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, Alana, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, today I was writing a fire report at the fire station for a serious call we had yesterday, and a resident from Edward Place stopped by and just happened to voice his opinion on the topic that you're talking about right now. He states that when he comes out of Edward Place, which he is a resident of Edward Place, that the shrubs on both left and right sides make it very difficult for sight blindness, and the front end of his vehicle has to protrude out onto Halsted in order to see clear areas right and left to be able to make that decision to make the right or left. He also stated, and I'm only saying what he stated without me going out there and actually physically seeing it, he states that there is no signs erected stating no parking from here to curb, here to corner on Edward. He didn't mention the other intersections, but he said Edward is very difficult and cars do park right up to the edge of the corner on both sides, making a right or left very difficult.
Okay, I will champion this one, and I'll tell you what I'll do. That's my neighborhood. I will go to every corner, and I'm gonna measure from the corner to the signs, and I'll get back to Dan. And I know he's right about those shrubs, Dan.
So if you can send me an email with the location,
yeah,
I will have code enforcement check it out.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Alana, is this number 3, the on Halsted Avenue, right? That's the
Yes,
one
that's
with-
right. Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
So Dan, I will email Dan with the address of the shrubs, and if you can have code enforcement work on that. And then I'm going to measure the distance from the corners to the signs, because I think visibility is an issue. So I'll get back to you on that also. Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Okay, number 4 is stop sign corner of Park Avenue and Florence Street. Is anybody here to talk about that? I know that Park Avenue and Florence is currently a 4-way stop, so I'm not sure if there's an issue with one of the stop signs. Is there anybody who called in or saw an email or anything?
See, Ms. Lori Baker Brown raised her hand.
Okay. Yep.
It's actually David Brown. I think
I'm sorry.
I think you're just off the street. I think this is about Park and English by the park.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I didn't make this request or complaint or whatever, but that corner it doesn't have a stop sign. It's kind of a blind corner with big
Yeah. So why don't we skip forward to number 9? Because I think there's a lot of people here tonight who want to talk about it's
Yeah.
number 9, the corner of Park Avenue in English. And is there a neighbor who would like to raise their hand to describe the situation to the group?
So now we have Ms. Luciano
Christy?
again.
Yeah, so I live right on the corner of English and Park. This is where the entrance to Florence Park is by us. So there are cars that park straight on the corner of Park going toward the park. And then there's cars that park on both sides of English, making it truly a one-way street, or a one-lane street, I should say. And there are no stop signs. So turning the corner, you literally have to hope that the person coming at you is not speeding around the corner. Also, there are kids who walk and bike down the street and fly across the very end of Park to get to the sidewalk, to get to the entrance. And I just hold my breath every time I see it, because one day a kid is going to be flying down and someone's going to come around Park onto English and there's going to be a fatality.
Yeah, and does everybody see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share a couple more pictures that Christy shared. This is a Google Earth. Here's Halsted. Here's Carvel over here. You're driving down Halsted toward Chico's. Take a right on English Place. And people, like we just talked about that other issue, people cut through from here and they cut through from here. And there's a lot of cutting through, which means speeding sometimes. What this image does not show you is that there's oftentimes cars parked on both sides of the street. So this is a one-way street. And if somebody is flying down here or here, and there's cars parked on both sides, and then there's a kid on a bike trying to get to the park, it's incredibly dangerous. So let me just show you the picture that she submitted. This is what it really looks like. So, here's English. So if you are, coming from Park and you're going up English toward Halsted, this is multifamily zone. So you're going to have a lot of cars parked on the streets.
A lot of cars park here for entering the park too.
And the park
so it's
too.
a lot of visitors.
Okay, and there's not really very much parking for the park, so that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And the other is, this other picture here is if you're driving from Halsted down to the park, you can again see that this is your visibility. It's a one-way street.
It's a one lane.
I'm sorry. It's a one-lane street so imagine if you're driving any faster than 10 miles an hour and the kid is on a bike, you have no visibility to see that kid.
Right. There's no visibility whatsoever until you get to the actual corner.
Okay. So just so you know, I've lived in this neighborhood for 10 years, and this issue came up 3 years ago when I was not on the traffic commission, and the neighbors just sort of ended up throwing up their hands. So it sounds like there's some new blood here. I'd like to hear what your suggestions are.
I think, suggest stop signs at both corners. I know it would take away some parking, but I'd rather see less parking than someone getting severely injured.
Okay. Is there anybody else who wants to weigh in on this?
We have another person, Bubba.
Okay.
I wonder if this is Cash Chief Bubba Pescia.
Okay.
So, Bubba, you are allowed to speak.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Dan. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Bubba.
Hi.
Cash Chief Bubba Pescia.
I live on English Place, too. I live at 414 English Place. I've been living there for about 45 years. The issue that she's talking about is predominantly being caused now by the amount of people that have been entering Florence Park recently. Basically, if we were to take away the parking in front of that fence, which, if I'm not wrong, I believe years ago that was signed no parking in front of that fence. But for some reason, there is no sign there and people park there. And if you were to put the stop sign basically on Park Avenue before you make the right onto English, or if you were to put a stop sign on both, basically in front of Christie's house and in front of, on the corner of Park, that would just stop people to make that turn. Because I'll tell you right now, I've had issues with it too, and Christie's 100% correct. The bigger issue actually is the neighbor's tree and like ivy growth on the corner. That makes it a blind corner. So if we were to possibly put a stop sign and just eliminate the parking spot right basically in front of Christie's house and in front of the fence and put a stop sign there if need be. But it's 100% correct. There's no way when there's people in the park, like it's not bad when we're there living and there's nobody in the park. It's not terrible. But when people are there in the park, it is one lane. You come down the street and you have no choice but to be in the middle of the road.
Bubba, which street do you believe there was no parking on before?
Well, there was no parking in front of the fence.
This is it right here.
Yeah.
At the bottom of
At the bottom of the
Park
hill.
Avenue.
Okay, I'm gonna see if they, I just wanna check the village code to see if this is one of those instances where it's in the, there are areas in the code which the signs aren't out in the field, which happens over the years.
Right, and the issue becomes there is when they are parked there and the street is packed, you have to kind of go around them because they protrude into the street a little bit, and you have to cut the corner a little sharp to make that turn.
So,
Right, but both ways, coming on Park toward English and on English toward Park, when there are cars on both sides of the street, it's truly one lane both ways. So now you have two cars coming at each other head on with no stopping whatsoever.
So Dan, if you were able to eliminate a parking spot or two on Park Avenue coming towards Florence Park, so on the right-hand side of Park Avenue, and to potentially put the stop sign there, and then to also turn it around onto English, take a parking spot away from, Chris, I forgot your address number, but what your address?
404, and honestly, I'm fine with that. I mean, it's in front of my own house, and I'd rather see a stop sign there and safe driving than have the extra parking for a guest.
Right. The parked car isn't as important as the stop sign there.
No, not at all. Right.
Right.
But for the commission's application, while you were, the reason I asked where the signs were, because I just wanted to check the village code, and there are no parking restrictions on either English or Park. So I just wanted to give that information for the board. So
What was it again, Dan? I'm sorry. What was that?
Bubba had mentioned that there used to be signs on the fence for no parking. So but they're not there anymore. So I looked in the village code, and in the section that has all the no parking restrictions, and there's nothing in that section for either English or Park. So if there were signs out there at one point, it's possible they didn't conform with the code.
Okay, so the code allows parking, is that correct?
Yeah, the code allows parking.
Okay, all right, so let's just take this one at a time. Okay, so Bubba had said, Christy had said, take away the spot in front of my house. I just put a square. Is that the spot that you're talking about?
It's hard for me to see,
it's
but
too hard. Okay, so if I'm driving down English and I get to the dangerous corner, is it the spot to the right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so then that's one of the spots you would take away. Where's the other spot, Bubba? If you're driving down Park toward Florence,
it would
on the right also.
It would be on the right before the corner on that.
Okay.
Yep, right there. Right where
okay, so I'm going to put that there. I mean, I definitely agree with you. I drove by this afternoon, and you have to take away some parking spots to make this safe. And I think, Dan, you can take a look too. Everybody else can take a look, but that's where you would take away the two spots.
I mean, parking on both of those streets are horrible as it is.
Yeah.
So I taking away parking is probably the worst scenario. But
right.
There's no way that you can make that corner any safer without taking at least one spot on Park.
I 100% agree with you. I
The one in
100%
front of
agree.
Christie's house, the one in front of Christie's house isn't necessarily as important, because as long as the stop sign is put there, you're gonna, even if you're in the middle of the road, you have to stop. So the turn when you get to that corner is where the head-on collision, or the kids. I mean, listen, my kids ride bikes down there also. So, you know, they're riding in the middle of the street because there's no sidewalks, and then they have to go into the driveway to make it into the park, into
Right,
Florence
they
Park.
use
So
the
they're-
driveway straight ahead to get
Right.
up onto the sidewalk to go to the park. Everybody does.
I think personally, like the safest issue would be to erect a stop sign on English and a stop sign on Park, and take away at least one parking spot on Park. You know, I had spoken to Christy about this, and I mean, technically New York State code, I mean, I think you all know that I'm parking enforcement in the village. Technically code is 30 feet from a stop sign, you can't park anyway. So it would be a question if you were going to take the spots away regardless of taking them away anyway.
Right. It's almost it's not even a decision. It'll just go part of the code. If we put the signs up, they'll have to take away the parking.
Right.
Okay, so here's another idea. I'm just going to float this out there. If parking is a big issue, and right now what you're saying is people park here, they park sort of
head on.
Yeah, so if you're driving down Park Avenue, they keep driving straight, and then they just park here, basically.
Yes.
So you know, if it's important for the residents to have parking, you could carve out some of that grassy area that's currently the park and carve in a couple of spaces.
Personally, I wouldn't want that because there's already an issue with people hanging out, or I should say teenagers hanging out.
Yeah.
Doing things they probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to give an additional space for that to happen.
And
a lot of
also-
rules are already broken in the park.
Right.
So
And also, Elena, we don't as the residents very rarely use those two spots for us. It's basically people visiting the park.
Okay. All right. Are there any other issues that you guys have, the residents?
Alana, I just need Bubba's last name. Bubba, can you spell your last name for me, please?
Yeah, P as in Peter,
Uh-huh.
ECCHIA.
Thank you very much, Bubba. I knew you were the meter man.
Yes, yes. And thank you very much for your time.
And
Yeah,
thank
and
you
I'll
for
tell you-
everything- thank you for everything you do.
I will champion this one because this is my neighborhood. So Christy, if you want to forward my email to any of your neighbors that want to be CC'd on this, please feel free. And
yes,
I'm going
I
to write
know
up the
all of my immediate neighbors want to be, so I will send
Okay,
to
that
them.
sounds good. So let me just, if there are no other neighbor issues, first of all, if there are any other neighbors, you want to raise your hand and speak, that would be great. Nope.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yeah, who's this?
Mr. Brown.
It's David and Lori Brown.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I live on English Place over on the other side of Halsted. I just
Okay,
wanted
great.
to say about the parking spots in front of the fence there that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
When cars are parked there, that also contributes to kids sort of riding their bikes into the middle of the street to get around those cars.
Okay.
So between that and the no stop sign, it's really a terrible combination.
Okay, so are you proposing that there would be no parking there, that there should be no parking signs?
In front of the park entrance.
Here.
I do agree with them.
Okay.
I think that if the stop sign is
Part of
there.
The whole issue, like we live on the other side of Halsted, and we're coming over Halsted, which is already treacherous on English Place. And then going down that hill, the kids are flying on their bikes, you know, and you can yell at them forever, and they're not going to slow down. And then they get to the end there, and then they actually have to go out into the middle of the road to get on the sidewalk to get into the park, and because cars are parked in that spot. if there were no
So-
cars there, they
Yeah.
could actually hop
Go
that
straight.
little curb.
Right.
Also
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
no curb cut there
Right.
getting into the park, so the kids jog to the left to go in the driveway of that house on the other side of Park Ave. I don't know the address.
Okay, so what you're saying is there's no sidewalks down English, so these
Nope.
kids are in the middle of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get there, there's no way to get into the park, so they have to cross over to the other side and then get on the sidewalk there?
Right.
Right, and they swing out into the street because of the
Parked
cars
cars.
that are parked in front of the fence.
Okay, so you think it would be safer if there's no parked cars there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which would then theoretically be in front of the proposed stop sign on English. There would be no cars past it either.
Exactly.
Okay, okay.
And it would be easier, and then a curb cut there at the sidewalk, then they can just, ride into the park or,
Okay.
walk or stroll. It's not just kids on bikes, it's, moms pushing strollers and all of
Right.
that.
It's definitely a path taken to the school. Mayor Murphy,
For
when
sure.
he was really pushing for the path to get repaved, one of our main issues here too for the path was this is one of the primary ways that any kid on this side of the town gets to school to go to Bellows or Daniel Warren. They cut through the park.
Yes, correct.
Okay, I mean, that sounds, it sounds reasonable to me. Is there anybody else or any other issues you want to address? Okay, so let's open it up to the Traffic Commission to weigh in on any concerns or ideas.
I have a question. If you put a stop sign and you need, in the code, you have no parking within 30 feet of the stop sign. So that tells me for every stop sign you put up, you lose 2 parking spaces. So if you've got two stop signs you're going to put up, and you're going to take away the 1 or 2 spaces in front of the fence park, so you're talking about taking away 5 or 6 parking spaces.
Technically, Bubba's right. It's 30. I can't remember the exact number of feet, if it's 30, but it's only if you could sign it
Yes.
to be less. So it's almost, it's 30 feet unless it's signed differently by the municipality.
Yes, Dan, that's correct.
Does that solve this concern?
I'm gonna be the next parking enforcement officer, Bubba.
And I'm not sure I understand how removing a parked car makes it safer for makes the drivers drive any safer.
Well, I think it's a rule that you can't put up a stop sign if there's parked cars blocking visibility, right?
I mean, like I said, stop signs
All
are.
right, so the code is 30 feet from a stop sign, crosswalk, or pedestrian crossing. So a yield sign, a stop sign, any type of traffic control device sign there's a 30-foot code from there. But the sign could supersede that. So if we as a village were to erect a sign that says no parking anytime with an arrow and then pointing to the stop sign, that means they can park from that no parking sign back.
Okay.
Even if it's less than 30 feet.
Okay, so that solves that. Then that solves that issue.
And you
actually.
can go and to record that is the stop sign on Tompkins Avenue by the apartment building there. There's the 2 stop signs at the island. Well, we used to have a problem with cars parking too close to the stop sign. Then the residents complained that there was no parking. So what they did was they put the stop sign and then they put a no parking sign like 5 feet away from it. So that now negates that 30 feet.
Okay, so it sounds like that solves the issue, but I would say, why not put crosswalks there while we're putting the stop signs? I mean, the whole purpose is so that these kids can get to the park safely.
Yes,
But-
as a resident with a 6.5-year-old, I totally agree. Again, because it is a major thoroughfare to the school. They're
Okay.
going down there all the time.
Elena, the only issue I see with a crosswalk there is you don't have sidewalks.
Oh,
So
it's-
the only crosswalk that would work is the only part of that street that's sidewalked is Park. So you would have to put a crosswalk across Park, across the street where you're adding that stop sign.
Or like paint the whole square over there, something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like a crosswalk across Park and a crosswalk across English.
That would only, if you're gonna have a crosswalk, it should only be to the park. Also, you know, I don't want to, you want to be careful about implying a level of protection that it may not ultimately offer. I don't believe we're going to have anyone there monitoring the crosswalk during the morning.
No.
Yeah.
Is there anything against putting a crosswalk there? I mean, is there?
Oh yeah, you can like Bubba said, you need the curb cuts.
The curb cuts?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we should ask for what we need, and then if there's pushback, we'll go from there.
Yeah, I don't have any opposed to a crosswalk. It's just the crosswalk won't really work on English, just
It would
because
work
there
on
are
Park.
no sidewalks. But Park Avenue would be perfect.
Okay. Okay.
It might make
Hey,
people
Bubba.
stop a second longer on Park turning to English.
Hey, Bubba,
Yes.
is there room on Park between that big storm drain and the driveway to put a crosswalk?
Well, I was going to bring that up. That's why all the kids use the driveway, because there is a storm drain right at the
I know,
bottom of the hill
it's
there.
a very big storm drain too, I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I would agree with putting some type of curb cut there so that kids don't have to make that left and then go in the guy's driveway and then make the right into to the sidewalk to go on the path. But I just don't know if it's feasible with that storm drain there.
You know what? The other issue would be if you want the kid to access a curb cut on the English side, right? That means they would have to cross English to do it.
Correct.
I mean, they're going to come down Park Avenue. You know any kids that stop at stop signs with their bikes? I don't.
I don't know many adults who do that either.
Well, I think most of the kids actually are on the sidewalk where the sidewalk is contiguous, which is this side, you know, that goes right into the park. It's more the kids coming down English.
There's a lot of bike riding there. There is a lot of bike riding there.
And truthfully, this believe it or not, the main issue is the stop sign on Park. Because if you could get the people that are coming around that corner, and you know, I know I wouldn't bring it up as a speed issue, even though off the record it is a speed issue. They do come around that corner kind of fast, and then they have to accelerate to go up the street because it's a hill. The safety for the kids on bicycles and walking down English, because everybody, adults, children, everybody who walks down English walks right down the middle. So if you can stop traffic on Park from making that right-hand turn and just give the people walking or riding a bike a half a second, that may save somebody's life. The stop sign on English is going to predominantly stop the head-on collision of the car coming off of Park.
Right, Bubba's right. If we can only get one of the two, having it on Park turning right onto English is going to prevent the pedestrian from getting hit, and I guess a turning car from English to see a stop car on Park.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in? Okay, are there any other ideas besides the two stop signs that anybody wants to float?
I have one other idea, which is
Okay.
Make English one way and Park Avenue one way. So wouldn't need to put a stop sign on Park Avenue because cars can't go that way.
So
Well,
actually,
the
I'll
only
tell you, because
issue,
I've been in this neighborhood long enough that that's what killed the whole thing last time, because they started the one-way conversation and then the
well,
whole thing
I
just
could,
died.
if I could just add in on that, because we did discuss the one-way thing. The
Yeah.
only issue that the residents would have with a one-way is then that causes all traffic to go down English to get to Park, because there is no other way to go. So anybody who lives on Park, who now could come off of Florence and make the right onto their street, now they all have to come down English Place. And English Place is not a wide street as it is with the cars. So it makes it very, it's just gonna make it traffic prone.
It's going to cause
that,
more congestion. If congestion's
Right.
the issue, and now you're going to put everybody through a very congested street, it doesn't really make sense.
Right. I mean, I truthfully believe, being in the enforcement world for almost 15 years now with the village, I truly believe that at least one stop sign on Park would help this issue tremendously. If we had to put the second stop sign on English, I think that would help the vehicular situation. But the pedestrian situation, especially since COVID and all this started, has gotten very heavy on English Place, even more so than I've ever seen in my life on the street. So pedestrian, it's only a matter of time. I know for 45 years, but let's say 30 years of actually knowing anything, I've never seen a situation happen there. But when it does, I don't want it to be somebody that I know's kid when it happens.
Right.
Me too.
Bubba, Christy, I have a question. It's Lucia. Do you guys park your cars out on the street? I mean, it wouldn't affect your family house?
No,
Go
ahead.
My car, so me and my sister own our house. It's a 2-family. We just converted it, but we've lived there our whole lives. We were born in that house.
Okay.
My car and my wife's car is parked on the street in front of my house, but it's up the hill. So it's closer to Halsted Avenue. And my sister and my brother-in-law park their car in the driveway. So we have 4 cars together.
Right.
But 2 of them are in the driveway and 2 of them are on the street in front of the house. So if you removed parking on the whole street, it would definitely affect me. But if we're doing the stop sign down there, it's really only going to affect Christy's house because that's in front of her house.
Right.
But again, if we add that sign that just says no parking, like 5 or 10 feet from the stop sign to the stop sign, it doesn't really affect her, because then she can potentially get 1 car in front of the house still.
Okay.
Correct.
All
I
right.
have a single family home and my driveway can fit 3 cars.
Okay.
So, for me, it's not a problem. Again, wouldn't want to take, if we could leave a space or 2 for people who are coming to visit the park, I think that would be, better received by the rest of the community. But again, I would imagine that more people than not would want safety over accessibility.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
Christy, I applaud you. I applaud you for doing the right thing for the community.
Thank you.
Rarely do you see somebody so, good-hearted doing the right thing. It really is. It's really nice. It is. It's nice.
Thank you, you guys.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to weigh in on this?
Nope.
Okay, so the Traffic Commission, does anybody want to talk about next steps or any additional, research that they need or anything like that?
I would just suggest, maybe have Dan look into, putting, taking away the 2 spots and, putting stop signs. Unless you just want to do just one side first and see how it goes. See if that works, and if not, then do the other side.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's just, again, it's the board adopts a resolution establishing the restriction. And once we do what we need to do as far as, doing our call outs for the utilities, we'll have it up within a couple of weeks. So, and we can do, and if you want, we could do 2, it would be 2 separate promulgations. You would establish the stop sign on Park Avenue at the English Place intersection, Sorry about that.
Mouthful.
Yeah, and then you could have a second restriction, no parking, 20 from 20 feet back or 30 feet back, whatever is the preferred distance. I mean, mechanically, it's a very simple resolution to write for the board
Okay.
consideration.
Does somebody want to propose the resolution? Can I propose it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I propose a resolution to add a stop sign at the intersection of Park and English and at the intersection of English and Park. All in favor?
Wait.
Aye.
You didn't ask for any discussion on the motion.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm not, usually don't run these meetings. Okay, so let's discuss.
And you would need a second before you vote.
Okay.
Am I allowed to discuss before there is a second?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not sure I really understand what the removal of the parking spaces does to safety, either with or without the stop signs. So I would say if you want the cars from hitting each other, cars from hitting the pedestrians, you start with one stop sign and you put your no parking from here to the stop sign as close to the stop sign as you're legally allowed to do it. And then you stop the people just going down the corner, and you don't lose all of these parking spaces, which are valuable.
May I reply to David? I think I might be able to explain.
Yes.
So, Alana, would you put back the photos that I sent you?
Yep. Do you see them?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So the one on the right, if you look, you see a blue pickup, and then you see a black sedan in front of it. Then the two cars beyond that are now jetting out into the into the curve of the street. So everybody has no choice but to veer into the road, into the middle of the street, because those prevent you from staying on the right side of the road.
Do you see that, David? These cars here are parked.
You're saying if instead of having two cars parked perpendicular to the fence there, you allowed one car to park parallel to the fence.
That would make all the difference. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
And in fact, the stop sign would be in front of on this side, two cars parked.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way they are now pushes everybody, both pedestrian, bicyclist, and vehicle, into the middle of the road.
Also, can I just add something with those cars? Those two cars parked there are not affected by the stop sign. Just so you all know that's on the other side of where the stop sign would be. So if you didn't eliminate those parking spots by putting a no parking sign on the fence at the end of the park, at the end of Park and in front of Florence Park, those cars could still legally park there even if you put a stop sign up.
Right, so you'd need a sign that said park.
And again, those cars generally are just during the hours of park use. Residents don't park there. It's just like right now, the pictures that Christy took, we have like a pseudo soccer league being run in Florence Park since the end of COVID, and those are their cars. Those cars are there almost every single day. They're the same exact cars, and they walk into Florence Park and they play soccer.
Yeah, I don't know that we differentiate or put any greater importance to whose car is parking there.
No. I'm just trying to give you perspective on the cars that are at the end of the park, that they're not generally residents who park there at any time. It's just when people go to visit the park.
Right.
So if we eliminated those two spots or made it a parallel spot, which is kind of tough in where it is because there's a cutout, that Christy is making the point that the danger of the corner has become more so because those cars are hanging out into the turning lane. So if I were to make a left-hand turn there and there was a car making a right-hand turn onto English, I can't avoid going head-on onto that car.
Right. So if one car was able to parallel park there, it would not eliminate the space is entirely. Somebody could still park there, but it would prevent people from having to jut out in the middle of the street.
Yeah, you know, I have to tell you, having a parallel car parking there, it makes me nervous that somebody's going to back up into a bicyclist. I think we should just get rid of those spaces. I mean, just from a safety perspective. I mean, and David, what they were saying is that the residents don't park there. In other words, there's not going to be issues with people finding spots for their families. I think that's what they were getting at.
Right. And if somebody wants to visit the park, I mean, they could go up English to Park or up Park or on Florence. Like, there are alternatives. You don't necessarily have to park right next to the park to enter it.
Right. I mean, you could park, yeah, on the street.
Well,
Okay.
you did say parking is tight there, so I'm assuming it's tight all the way up the street. And
No, it's not.
We fight for every parking space.
Is it just as tight on English as it is on Park?
The further up the street you get, on one side it's not bad, the other side it's a little worse, usually because of the just multifamily houses. But I mean, the further away you get from the park, the easier it is to park. So like, if someone wanted to access the park, they might have to park half a block away instead of right next to it.
Yeah.
Alana?
Okay. Yeah.
Alana, can I just weigh in on one thing?
Yeah.
In reference to the stop signs, if you do a resolution for one stop sign, I'm just thinking outside the box, if the commissioners can listen and see if they see it the way I see it. If you erect one stop sign on Park proceeding toward English and not the other opposing sign, would it not change the posture of the driver coming down English from Halsted, that he or she would not reduce his speed on a blind curve? I could picture the curve right now. I drive for the fire department, and by putting only one sign up, you've changed the posture of the driver approaching the stop sign. If he or she stops their vehicle fully like they're supposed to be as prescribed by law, the car approaching from Halsted down English has no reason to reduce the speed and will be approaching a blind curve with a car pulling around a curve at the same time. Does that sound right to you?
What do you think? What do you think, Andy? You have more experience with this.
I mean, I would do the dual signs because that brings you to a safe stop. We've had a lengthy discussion so far in reference to the children, which are the most important. And if you could bring vehicles to a stop where there's an active park and an active access to the park, pedestrian and bicycle, I think we've done our due diligence. I mean, Bubba, Lucia, how do you guys feel? You're the neighbors in the neighborhood. I only represent the fire departments. How do you guys feel?
I think that would be great.
And listen, I'm all in favor of not taking away the parking spots as much as we can for safety, except for those two that are in front of the fence. But as far as the stop sign goes, I'm all in favor of the stop sign on both streets if it's going to save a kid's life. I mean, that's just the way I feel.
Absolutely.
Okay. Lucia actually, she missed it when she walked out, Alana, if you want to fill her in.
Okay, Lucia, we were just discussing, you know, whether one sign or two signs makes more sense, or if there's any concerns with having one stop sign or two stop signs, and we kind of vetted some of the issues, part of which is the parking after the stop sign.
Right.
And are two stop signs necessary? I think that the group is weighing toward two. Does that sound accurate to the group?
So you want two stop signs, one on each street, correct?
So it would be an always stop.
Huh?
Yeah. So
It would be an always stop.
Always stop. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, that's the proposal on the table, but the discussion is still open. Does anybody else want to weigh in? Okay, is there a second for the proposal to establish stop signs as an always stop at the corner of Park and English?
I second.
Does the proposal also include removing those 2 parking spots or not?
Well, Dan, they don't exist right now, do they?
Well, so you may want to buttress this. If you want to remove those vehicles, you may want to buttress this resolution with a recommendation for a no parking here to corner or something like that. Just because, although Bubba knows the state restriction, I know the state restriction, and in theory, most people, when they take their permit test, should know the state restriction. I think a lot of people don't know what the restriction is. So
No, I'm talking about those 2 parking spots down by the fence, by the park entrance.
Oh,
The 2 cars that are sticking out there.
These guys
You want to
here.
include that
Oh
in
my
the
God.
proposal?
Well, the option I'm putting forward is, I think in general, I don't think most people are cognizant that they can't park within the 30 feet of a stop sign.
But they're past the stop sign.
Oh, they're past the stop sign.
Yeah, they're past the stop sign.
So my general feeling is, and if I have to lose, if losing a parking space or 2 improves the site visibility, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I'll tell you why, because even, Christie this is Christie's whole point. I mean, even if you have a stop sign on English, once you get through the stop sign, you still have the same problem of having to drive out into the middle of the street to go around the 2 cars. The same problem remains, whether you have a stop sign or not.
okay, so I think that part of the resolution is to remove the parked cars in front of the park. Can I change that or not?
You can make a motion to amend your resolution.
Does that have to be a separate resolution, Dan?
No, you just make a motion to amend your resolution.
I'd like to make a motion to amend my resolution. The amended resolution is to establish stop signs, an always stop at the corner of Park and English, and to remove the parking spots in front of the park.
In front of the park?
Yeah. Does that
Does
sound
it
right,
have to
Larry?
be more specific than that, or is that all you need?
I think we can probably interpret the spirit of the recommendation and prepare a resolution accordingly, which I could share with the commission before we present it
Okay.
for their discussion.
All right, is there a second for that resolution?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have to do hands, show of hands?
You need to show that it's a majority vote, a majority of 7. You need 4 votes saying aye. You need to record it.
So let's go each, Larry, you said aye?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Lucia.
Lucia? Alana? Do we have one more?
David?
Nay.
That's all that we have on the commission today?
Andy, what about Andy?
Does Andy get to vote?
Voting. He's
I can't vote.
Non-voting.
The
member.
fire chief took my authority away to vote 4 months ago.
Yeah,
He
that's
notified the village manager.
true. Kelly, can't, they're right? No, Kelly.
We have
can't.
4. We have 4.
No, you have 3.
Who's
You
your
have
4th?
3.
No,
You have 3.
No, you have to have,
No,
no, you have David, Alana, Larry, and
no, David did not vote for it.
David said nay.
So Alana, so
Yeah.
the resolution does not pass.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so,
so what you can do is
Yeah.
put it on the agenda for next time
yeah.
and try it again.
Okay, because there's 2 other members who are not on today,
Right.
Karen and Shannon. So I think what we'll do is we'll put you first on the agenda next week, neighbors, if you want to come back. And hopefully I'll ask Karen and Shannon to watch this part of the video so that they can vote next week.
So we're gonna put it on for August meeting.
Yeah, for the August meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Guys, thank you.
Bye. Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is 427 East Boston Post Road parking. Does anybody know anything about that? So I looked it up and it looks like 427 East Boston Post Road is by the Mamaroneck Diner. Did anybody get an email or?
Oh, I think isn't that in front of Dunkin' Donuts? I think that's where they're complaining. And they are correct. If somebody parks their car in front of Dunkin' Donuts, you know, where you pull into Dunkin' Donuts, you cannot see when you're going out of Dunkin' Donuts. You
Okay.
can't see if a car is parked there. I believe that's what they're complaining about.
No, he's talking about the one legal parking space between the entrance to Dunkin' Donuts and the exit of the diner.
Yeah, right. You can't see.
But no, because if you're coming out of Dunkin' Donuts, that it's like 50 feet away from it, and 3 other cars are parked in between.
Are you sure, David, there's a parking spot between the diner and Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes, there's one legal spot there.
Oh, I never realized.
Oh, wow. I never realized. I always thought it was, okay. Well, anyway, you can't see going when you're coming out of Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, that may be, but that's not what this guy is asking about.
Well, David, why don't you tell us, why don't you champion this one? It sounds like you have more information than anybody else.
You go, David.
You want me to? Okay. Yeah, fine. So the guy is the owner or franchisee of Dunkin' Donuts is. I didn't really understand his complaint, but he says that. Let me pull it up and I'll see what he says exactly. There it is. Hello, my name is Daniel Chiravella. I'm the owner. I often receive complaints about someone parking in the area between my store and the Mamaroneck Diner. It blocks the driver's vision. I don't know the rules, but if you try and enter or exit while someone is parked there, it is difficult.
I don't get it.
I don't either.
Well, no, what it is so with that driveway, you can, most people pull in one end and go out the other. But there's two-way traffic in the entrance that's further south. The entrance by the diner has two-way traffic in and out.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a sign there that you can't make a.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was two-way traffic coming out of there.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
because
was entrance only.
that also services the parking lot behind the Dunkin'
Yeah,
Donuts.
Oh,
Yeah.
going back to the Elks Lodge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the Elks.
I think you can go out that way.
Everybody I'm an elk, and when we come out of the Elks Lodge, we usually go around the diner,
Maybe,
the other side of the diner.
Okay, so this is what it looks like. There's Mamaroneck Diner, and there's Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
And it looks like that's what David is
Oh,
saying, is you
all
pull
right.
out and you take a right and there's a
Yeah.
car there.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's
so-
what he's saying. He cannot, and you can't. When you come out of Dunkin' Donuts, you cannot see if you're making a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn because that car is parked. Those cars are parked there.
Is it pulling out of Dunkin' Donuts or pulling out of the diner?
No, that's.
Well,
Out of Dunkin' Donuts.
when I pull out of Dunkin' Donuts, you know, I have a hard time.
Okay.
Oh, wait
So
a minute, but you know what? Because of the trees, is there a left turn lane there? All I see is the right turn lane.
Yeah, there's two.
I think it's a right turn only lane.
I think it's right turn only.
Yeah. So that's
All
why you have the two-way traffic coming out of there. So.
but still, even if it's a right-hand turn, you still can't see with those cars parked there.
Right, the one car.
I believe that's what he's complaining about.
Okay,
Because it is-
so
it is
what do
very-
you, David, how do you want to handle this?
How do I want to handle it? Well, I think that this situation is the same situation that we talked about on Halsted and Fenimore. We just have busy roads and a tremendous need for parking. And we cannot just take away parking spaces because it's dangerous. And as long as it conforms to the regulations, that there's a space allowed there, it's my feeling that we take no action. But
Okay, how does everybody else feel?
Well, do we know if there have been any incidences there?
Okay, so maybe, we have to get back to this person. Do you want to go do a site visit, David, and just take a look and then report back to everybody for next week?
Next month.
Next
I
month?
did the site visit today and I just gave you my report. So I don't know that another site visit would help.
Well, can we find out if there have been any accident reports filed there?
Sure. I will send an email to the police and ask them what the accident report history is there.
Okay, and then just get back to us, and the person who put in the request would be great.
Yep.
Thanks, David. Okay, we'll move on to the next. Does anybody else have any thing to add to that? Okay, so the next item is a street light between Florence Street and Franklin. Did anybody get an email on that?
Yeah, it was in the packet.
All right, do you want to tell us about it?
It was further down. No. No, not
Can I
there.
ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Why is the traffic commission dealing with a street light?
So that was going to be my first question, too.
I mean, this is something for the village manager, not for the traffic commission.
Well, I think it's a little odd because it's a very residential street anyway. I mean, if straight,
Yeah,
that's,
but why are we dealing with street lights?
did anybody get a chance to read that? I did not get a chance to read this.
I think that Larry's question is valid. Here's what it says. Nothing happened yet, but it is so dark that it is an accident waiting to happen. There's
Oh, a light.
Yeah, a street light, it says.
Walkers, bicycle riders, and cars. Someone will get hurt one day.
Okay, Dan, can you, I got it. Dan, can you take this?
I mean, I saw the letter, and we can certainly take a look at it. Again, I don't know what the history is of accidents. You know, you could honestly make that argument every single intersection in the village.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'd have to ask the PD if there's any sort of accident data on this intersection that would,
Yeah, but Dan, my question is, why is this even being passed on to traffic commission? Because if we start dealing with streetlights, then, we'll be here forever.
Get it together. So. Yeah, I said all I can do is I can look at it. I know the traffic commission did look at the Tompkins Avenue, Beach Avenue intersection a couple of years ago, and one of the recommendations was for additional lighting out there. But again, I can certainly look at the intersection. I mean, there's nothing, looking at this picture, which is just a snapshot of a day that probably looks to be a little bit later in the afternoon, given the shadows going across the roadway. It doesn't look too obstructive.
Okay, so Dan, I'm gonna put you down to follow up with this, if that's okay?
Okay.
Alana?
Yeah.
Could I just ask, this kind of gets to the issue that was part of an email that I was involved in earlier today, and I know Dan was on it, and I think you were too, but I'm sorry, I can't hear. Can we get the background noise off?
Everybody please mute, everybody mute.
Yeah, I can mute everyone. Give me a second.
Yes, Andy. It's
Can you
Andy.
mute
It's,
Andy?
it's Andy.
Andy.
That's it.
Can you mute him?
Andy, turn
I'm
your
muted. I'm
radio
muted.
up, dude.
I love you, Andy, but I had to mute you.
Okay. So if I could just say, I think part of the problem here is that we have an email from someone as opposed to an incident report, and he's not present at the meeting. So we're trying to figure out what is meant by this email, and we just don't have the information. So I think rather than maybe assign it to Dan and have him try to figure this out, maybe we could just follow up with the gentleman who sent the email, send him one of these incident reports, invite him to come to the August meeting, and have him flesh it out for us. Other than, instead of us just chasing our tails, trying to read his mind.
Okay, can somebody volunteer to do that, please?
Lucia volunteers.
Why me? Why
Who's
don't you?
taking the notes?
I do the minutes there and notes. It's enough. How about you, Larry?
I'm already tied up with Hoyt Avenue and Fenimore Road.
Okay,
And
and
I
Fenimore-
work all day.
Okay, we're gonna need people to take more than one assignment. Is David here? David, could you take this one? Because I think we each have two already. You have one.
We're on the streetlight one?
Yeah, just email the guy back at the incident report and ask him to please fill out the incident report, and if he would like to talk about it, to come to the meeting next month.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we're almost done here. There's a request for 339 Center Avenue, a handicap spot. I don't have any information on this.
Here's what they said. Parking on my street can be very difficult to find. There's a lot of cars and it's a dead-end street. I've had 3 back surgeries and it's a daunting task to park so far from my home. It's hard enough to just get in and out of the car. Desired outcome, like a handicap parking space or 2 outside my home to help me and my husband get to and from the car easier. This would help by making our walks to and from the car a lot shorter and be less taxing on my body at the same time.
Okay, I think this is exactly what Shannon was talking about when she said when somebody's asking for something special and they're in a situation like this, we should listen.
Well, do they have a handicap permit already?
That's a good question.
If they don't have one, it's a moot point anyway.
So should we?
And I drove by there today, and it looks like there's a driveway on the side of the house that they have. I don't know if it's their driveway or not, but
I know a lot of people who live in multifamily homes in Washingtonville. The owner of the home, if they're just tenants, the owner of the home a lot of times takes the off-street spaces for themselves and requires their tenants to park on street. So that could be one of the mitigating factors here. I don't know, but that does happen a lot in areas where you see multifamily housing.
But their letter says they live on a dead-end street. I didn't get that.
Yes.
yeah, this is the block between Fenimore and going in the direction of Amerenik Avenue.
Oh, Plaza, between the creek and Fenimore?
It's Center Street.
All right, but where Suburban was? Over there?
Okay.
What is that? I think there's only 1 or 2 houses on that block, right? The rest
Yeah.
is commercial.
It's mostly commercial.
It's all commercial.
And this is very near Fenimore.
Can we see a map of that, or?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble figuring out how to get the map up there. Let me just see here if I get, my Zoom screen like went away. I don't know where it went. Okay, there it is. Okay, hang on a second, I'll pull it up. There we go. So it's very commercial, 339 Center. You know, to be honest, if anybody's dropped their car off, it's like this is Fairway Auto, I guess. So Center is here. It's hard to find parking.
It's very, very active during the day.
Is there even housing there?
Yeah, no, we have
1 or
about
2 houses.
there's still about 16 or 17 houses left in the industrial area.
I mean, is there even space for handicap parking there?
Alana, could you zoom that in or not?
Yeah, let me see if I can figure out how to do that.
there's two street parking spaces directly in front of the house. Other way.
I could see where during the day, all the employees of the, commercial area parking. Okay.
Yeah, so where that dark colored car is and that white, light colored car, might even look like a police car.
Yeah.
That's where she would put her handicap spot. Now, again, there's not a whole lot of parking on that street, and you're taking away parking from all of these other residents and tenants on the street.
Oh, all the businesses. It's
Yeah.
all business.
Well, you could also make the argument that the businesses are making it very difficult for this handicapped resident to find a place.
And on the far side of that building is this driveway.
That's the driveway?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you guys think?
I think we need to find out if they have a handicap permit to begin with, and if they do, then, and it's an elderly couple, then they deserve at least one spot.
How does everybody else feel?
Yeah, I guess. If you want me to take care of this one, I will.
Okay, that'd be great. So I think the question is, do they have a permit?
Yeah,
And if so, maybe we could next week vote on it.
Next month.
Next month. I keep thinking it's next week. Okay. All right. So the last one, yay, we're at the end of the road here, is Cove Road potholes. Does anybody know where Cove Road is?
Yeah, Norienta.
Can I just,
Hey,
yeah, it's late, and I just want to tell everyone, I live on Cove Road. Cove Road is a private road. The village
Private
does
road,
not
yes.
pave these. It is not the
Correct.
village's responsibility at all. It
Yes.
is the
Okay.
responsibility of the homeowners.
Association.
There isn't a homeowners association. There is
Oh,
none.
no? Okay.
No. So, occasionally the homeowners talk to Hampshire Country Club. They ask, do you want to come in on a deal with us and pave the road or fill in potholes? And of late, Hampshire has said no. So,
do you blame them?
So I think you just solved it for us. I'll follow up with this one, Kelly, and just communicate what you said.
Yeah.
And I think we're all set then.
It's just not a village issue.
Yeah, it's not a village issue. Okay, thank you. All right, so that's it. I think everybody has their to-dos. I will write up the first set of emails to make sure everybody knows where they're going. And then we'll meet next month.
Yeah, but we
Okay.
still have to do, the follow-ups and the others, but should we wait for
Oh,
Jerry?
I didn't see the second. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. Okay, boy, it is getting late. Okay, so
We really have to wait for Jerry on this, no? Unless, Dan, do you know about any of the
Yeah,
follow
I didn't really get a chance to follow up on these.
on the,
Yeah.
so we'll have to wait for Jerry.
Okay, so let's do this. Dan, could you have a meeting with Jerry and just cross off anything that's been completed so that we can shorten this list?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll follow up on it tomorrow.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. And then we'll
Okay.
just, okay. All right. Is there anything on the list that anybody from the Traffic Commission wants to address?
No, I just, the only thing I wanna, do, and I guess, we'll have to wait on this until Jerry, is the, Villa Avenue stop sign, the striping to be done in the springs, but with the COVID, so that's the one I've been working on with a resident.
Okay.
Oh, that, I guess we'll have to wait for Jerry to see if he got it, if this has been done. I don't think so, because of the COVID, what happened, so.
Dan, after you meet with him, could you just CC the Traffic Commission on what's been completed and what hasn't?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Okay, and then I think we've taken a lot of everybody's time tonight, and I really appreciate it. Okay, is there anything else?
The minutes, we have to approve the minutes.
Okay. Does everybody approve?
I make
Is
the
there-
motion.
I second it. Do we approve the minutes? Everybody in favor? Aye, okay.
Aye.
We have
Aye.
Come on, guys, really?
All right. Okay. And then do I make a motion to close the meeting? Kelly?
Adjourn.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. All
I'll
in
second.
favor? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For taking over
Thank you.
Alana. Nicely done.
Thank you, Lieutenant
Thanks for the
Falcone.
help. I appreciate it, you guys. All right.
Bye.
Have a
Be
good night.
safe. Like,
Good day.
hopefully we see you in person next month.